We all have an AI horror story. My husband and I were taking our daily waddle because I'm 36 weeks pregnant and I'm officially looking like a penguin. But there are times where I want to drop kick a large language model. I've taken a ton of courses on prompt engineering, and I want to share something that we have recently discovered that changes the game. I'm Liz Moyer, Doctor of Strategic Leadership. I've served as an Air Force officer in the Pentagon, deployed around the world, commanded a squadron, and also worked with joint and soft units. I know what it feels like to be overwhelmed, especially when you're using AI. So today I'm going to share one hack and we will jump into ChatGPT and show you how you can up your prompt engineering. Make sure you stay till the end and I'll share a simple prompt that will cause your large language model to ask you questions and get a better result. Also, if you're looking for a short course that will help you improve using AI, check out my Command the Chaos course. By implementing the prompts and the tips in that curriculum, you can save 15% from your work week. Training AI is kind of like training dogs. I had this 120-pound dog. He was a mix between a Pyrenees and a Golden Retriever, just a total gentle giant. And I had moved into a place that had stairs. Well, he wasn't super familiar with stairs. We had gone up and down some stairs when we would go to the park. But when I moved into this new location, this dog would not go up the stairs. I tried treats, bribery. At one point, I was pushing him while someone was pulling him. I know, please don't judge me. It was early in my dog training years. But here's what I learned is that dogs don't transfer learning the same as humans do, and nor does AI. I literally had to pick up that dog and carry him up the stairs to show this is how we go upstairs. So let's talk about the problem. Maybe you're working with ChatGPT and it hasn't given you the answer you're looking for. What do you do first? Rule number one is you have to be curious. It's that intellectual curiosity. I uploaded a document, and this was actually a coaching call. And I asked for an extensive summary, and it gave me a decent summary. But what I realized is it actually missed two key points in our conversation. And I don't really understand why it did that. I used to think that if I just did a better prompt, then I would get a better result. And I will say that prompt engineering is still really important. If you don't have a good framework for prompting to give that large language model good context, I do recommend the prompt canvas. I have a video that goes over the prompt canvas. Check that out. But when I talk about being curious and I look, it missed two areas. I know AI is not a person, but if this was a person, how would I approach it? The supervisors that I respect the most are the ones that when someone is struggling, they practice intellectual curiosity. They don't just jump and do discipline or tell them, hey, that's wrong. They ask questions. Something as powerful as walk me through your thought process. How did you get here? Or what did you understand in my instructions can be very helpful. Now, I'd be lying to say if I haven't gotten really mad. I'm talking to ChatGPT and typed in all caps, hey, you missed this information. This is really frustrating. No, this is wrong. I can't download this. Something I've noticed that ChatGPT does a horrible job of is if it makes an executive brief and it makes a Word document and I download it, sometimes there's nothing in it and I am so frustrated. But let's practice intellectual curiosity. Okay, so I saw you gave me a good summary, but I want to ask a couple of questions. Is there a better format I could have given this to you in that you could more easily digest? And then I want this to be really detail oriented. And it looks like you took out some of the key pieces of the conversation. And I want you to figure out how many times you need to review this document before you can give a comprehensive summary. And in general, I need to understand when I say summary, what your left and right boundaries are, because I would rather you have more information and then me scale than what you're doing, which is you're starting with less information. And now I'm having to figure out what is missing. So, what can we do to answer these questions? And then, how would you prompt yourself to get the outcome, which is a very detailed summary with do outs, with specifics, and with kind of a rank order of what needs to get done. Now, I haven't given it a perfect goal yet, but I've at least gotten out of my head sort of what I want and what I mean by summary. So it has come back and said, I actually prefer text. It's easier to digest, segmentation. It says if you break it into word chunks, that actually helps. And then it said heck and chunk free as well too. Context metadata. If you give me upfront your intended use, whether it's internal, executive, I can scale the level of detail appropriately. Okay. And then I could potentially also give it examples. It then jumps into depth of review. I recommend a multi-pass approach, 5 to 10 passes. And then it says what it would do in each one of those passes. And then it's defining for me summary. Okay, cool. I like that. And if you don't specify, I tend towards the middle, which is structured but not fully exhaustive. That's why you felt pieces were missing. I defaulted toward digestible rather than everything captured. And then it said, hey, this is what the prompt should look like. I won't trim. And then this is, would you like me to rerun in the right boundary style so you can see the difference? And I'll say yes. So now I have the results and you see that it's gone through and what it looked for was structure and flow, key themes and content, actionable do out, ranked priorities, risks and consideration, and then deliverable. Now it's going to say, do you want me to put this into an action brief? Now, mind you, I didn't take the time to ask it to convert it to text, which would have helped. I could have asked it to chunk, which maybe would have gone through there. And then I can kind of look at that and go, I like this, but maybe I want it to be in a different format that is helpful for me. And I can go back and forth. One bonus that I mentioned is that you can also, before you do the prompt, type in this, which is I need your help with blank specific task. And before you respond, ask me 3 to 5 questions about what would make this most useful for my situation. And then provide a response in the format that best serves this goal. I'll make sure that I have this prompt pinned in the comments. So I'm going to just say making this summary really helpful slash actionable. I have all these great conversations with my coach, and sometimes we talk about too many things, or I talk about too many things. So I want to make sure I know what are the next steps I'm going to take. You can see it's now asked me these questions, and I can answer those questions. But if I talked about intended audience, end goal, format preference, scope of detail, and integration, then it's taking it to that next level. We're getting way more specific. So I'm not saying abandon using the prompt canvas and giving context and great prompts. But what I do want to encourage you is that sometimes we need to ask, we need to be curious with that large language model and say, what's the format and what do you need? And how can you help me develop this great prompt? Still give it some context, but you're really enriching it. And then if it's not giving you what you want, we take a step back and we recognize that it is making shortcuts. AI can be very, very lazy and it is pretty dumb right now. Overall, the goal is to get you from being frustrated with AI to actually trusting it to be that co pilot. I have a course called Command the Chaos, which develops your own AI wingman. I created this course because I needed it. There were so many pain points that had to do with basic management, whether it was my inbox, meetings, presentations. In my next video, I'm going to show you how AI scrapes information and how you can use more specificity to get what you're looking for, especially when you're doing research. Leave a comment on what has been most frustrating when you've been working with AI. I'd love to help out.